Ready? Hit it.
Yep, here he comes. Riding his trusted steed through the Sierra foothills as he brings you the news.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
He calls himself
Charlie!
What you doing, Charlie?
Sorry, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. There you are. Look how cute you are. Yeah.
Hey, Charlie. What's with the dark glasses?
And now, here he is, a man of God, living in a world of Disney.
Ow! Charlie!
Charlie Simons.
Charlie bit me.
Hello, my friend. Yes, I am Charlie Simons, talking about two things you're never supposed to talk about, religion and politics. That's what I do here. I'm on vacation, on location. The Birds Beach Nest is a bed and breakfast in Brookings, Oregon. Never been here before. Absolutely love it. And I want to thank my friends Richard and Danielle Bird, B-Y-R-D. If you want a bed and breakfast to stay at on the southern coast of Oregon, it is like out of a movie, this house. What they've done with their place is so extraordinary, and the food is amazing. The company is fantastic. And they're dog lovers. So, yeah, pets welcome too. So it's Birds, B-Y-R-D apostrophe S. If you want to find them on Facebook, Birds Beach Nest. Birds Beach Nest. Bed and breakfast in Brookings, Oregon. And this show brought to you by my friend Mike Lindell, one of the great patriots this nation has ever known. Put everything on the line to expose a horrible bit of corruption that my guest is very, very aware of. Dinesh D'Souza on the show with me today. He's definitely on the side of Mike Lindell, proving here's what happened, here's how it happened, here's how they did it. Look, everybody. And we're not going to win again until this is resolved, until this is fixed, until it is done away with, this corruption, this cheating, this stealing. Honest and fair elections, one of the most honest and fair elections in history is what that horrible thing that some of you call the president called it in 2020. What a joke. Like everything about them. It's a joke. Dinesh D'Souza, finally on my show. And you can support this show and help it stay on the air by buying products from our friend Mike Lindell, mypillow.com/LEE. My middle name can get you up to 75% off already very fairly priced American-made products. Yes, Mike Lindell, mypillow.com/LEE. My middle name, Lee. That's your promo code. Please use that. And you'll be helping this show stay on the air as he shares some of the profits that he makes when you buy his American-made products. mypillow.com/Lee. I'm going to get right to it. I'm so excited. I only have a limited time with him. And I've actually been praying. I've asked the Lord to let me introduce and interview Dinesh D'Souza. And I got to meet you a few years ago, sir. You had just married Debbie, and you came out to Sacramento. I was working by the Salem Media Group, and you were there doing a public speaking engagement, and I got to meet you backstage. You and your wife could not have been more gracious. You were just so friendly, so nice, and you did such an awesome job. I was already in your camp, though. My first experience with you, Hillary's America, Death of a Nation. Oh, my goodness. I missed Obama's America. I never saw that one, so I've got to. 2000 Mules changed my life in dramatic ways. You've done such extraordinary work through filmmaking and the books that you've written. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your kind words, too. That means a lot.
I'm glad it means something to you because I'm sure you hear it all the time. But then you also hear from the left people who absolutely destroy you. They went after you legally. What the heck was all that? You were one of the first ones. I've had George Papadopoulos on the air and a couple of others who've been really targeted like that, where they go after you legally for trumped up ridiculous things, but they own the court system, don't they?
Well, what they do is they go through a giant encyclopedia of federal laws and rules and regulations. They typically find some trivial violation. In my case, for example, I was in New York and a college friend of mine was running for office, and I exceeded the campaign finance limit. Now, normally the campaign itself will catch that and they send you the money back. I mean, it's my money after all. And but in this case, they acted like I was, Jeffrey Dahmer, and went after me with the full force of the government. Now, I didn't realize at that time, 2013, that it was a prelude, a kind of opening salvo in an emerging kind of police state that would affect people like Papadopoulos, Carter Page, Michael Flynn, of course, now Trump. I saw it as a one-off. I said, I made this movie about Obama. He's a vindictive narcissist. I've obviously upset him. And I should have known that'd be kind of a target on my back. So I didn't see the full scale mobilization, the criminalization of political differences coming in the way that it has. But here we are.
We don't even think that way. We just like, well, I'm innocent, so it's all going to be proven anyway, and everything will turn out all right. But no, you went to a federal prison, didn't you?
Yeah, these campaign finance laws, it's important to realize why they're there. They're there to prevent corruption. And corruption here means the legal term is quid pro quo. So if I go to a politician, I say, listen, I'll give you a bunch of money, but I want you to make me a judge when you get elected. Well, that's the quid pro quo. I'm buying office. This was not even true in my case. They didn't even allege it. In fact, I didn't even tell the candidate, her name was Wendy Long, that I was exceeding the limit. So she didn't even know about it to return any favors. So this is an example of a gratuitous or selective prosecution. Selective prosecution meaning nobody on the other side would ever be prosecuted for doing what I did. And in fact, no one in American history has ever been prosecuted under circumstances similar to mine.
That had to be scary as hell. I try to put myself, when I read about all that they did to you and everything that happened, I try to put myself in your position, how I would feel about all of that. You've never broken any laws. You've never been accused of any kind of crime. You've never been brought up on charges. And then all of a sudden, all hell is raining down on you. And it is obviously a political vindictiveness that's next level that we haven't, at least I haven't seen in my lifetime. And it was, never forget what Obama did when he literally weaponized the Internal Revenue Service against Christian and conservative organizations that were nonprofit. Never forget that he did that. But we seem to have such a shortened memory. We're already forgetting what they did to us during COVID, what they did to us in the 2000 election, and even 2016. They started cheating that early, didn't they, on a massive scale?
I think in 2016 there certainly was cheating. Now, whether they needed to cheat or whether Obama, I'm sorry, this was obviously the Hillary campaign. I think in the Hillary campaign, they didn't go all out because they thought she was going to win anyway.
They were so arrogant, weren't they?
Yeah, and Trump like pulled off a massive surprise. But since then, they have been going all out. Now, in my new film, which is called Vindicating Trump, and if I can mention vindicatingtrump.com, that's a website, and there's a book of the same title. We have a section called The Ballot Makers. And I think it's important because it unfurls a new potential form of cheating. And because I think the way you fix this is you have to ultimately, it's not enough to just look in the rearview mirror and say, this is what they did in 2016, this is what they did in 2020. Because these people they're improvisational geniuses and they come up with new stuff all the time. So you have to put yourself in the mind of the criminal and say, if I were going to rob Fort Knox, like, how would I do it? And we do this in the new film. And I think it is a nice kind of addition to the information that was in 2000 Mules.
The other films you've done were straight ahead, in your face documentaries. Vindicating Trump, which I'm so glad I got to see. And I strongly suggest everyone does. I don't know if it's still in theaters, probably not where I live in California.
You know what? It's now in streaming. It's in DVD. There are multiple platforms in which you can see it. So just go to the website and you can see how you want to watch it.
Vindicatingtrump.com. But like I said, the others have been documentaries. This one, I love what you did. You actually got actors, and some of them we recognize on the conservative side, playing the bad guys on the left. That was fantastic. And you crafted a story. You made it more like a movie than any other film you've done so far. At least that's the feeling I got.
No, that's very important. I think, many people have called my films docudramas instead of, and in my earlier ones, I would do historical recreations and sometimes quite elaborate ones. George Washington, we did scenes of the assassination of Lincoln. But
Yeah.
what I haven't done is what I do in this film, which is a very entertaining contemporary recreations. And they're recreations aimed at kind of answering a question I think a lot of people have in mind, which is, hey, listen, how do people in the intelligence agencies, in the DNC, in the media, how do they react to these kinds of events? How do they coordinate with each other? So, for example, if Trump is in a courtroom in New York, he's being convicted of these 34 felonies. At CNN, do they all watch with repertorial objectivity, or are they jumping up and down and embracing and high-fiving each other? Jake Tapper, buddy, you did it. You got it done. No, you got it done. This kind of thing. So we imaginatively reconstructed this kind of stuff. So it puts you right there. And the Trump story is told from multiple angles. The funny thing is, a lot of the people playing the leftists are actually all Trump supporters. So
Mhm.
they all look unbelievably bohemian, and they look plucked straight out of Berkeley and maybe
They
San
did great.
Francisco.
They
But
did really
all
good.
those guys are really on our side.
I have been in the media my entire adult life, and I've worked for big networks, ABC, CBS, Clear Channel. I know full well what they're all about and how the greatest lie that they do is by omission, never even telling you what's really going on. And you exposed that brilliantly. And even though I'm laughing out loud while I'm watching the film, I'm thinking, that's exactly how they are. That is exactly right. How'd you get a lot of this insider conversation that you had to write and craft? I mean, how close, how right on, dead on was it, do you think?
We have a small team, and it's a mix of people with a different range of skills. And so I think somehow we come together and it clicks and works. The centerpiece of the film is a one on one conversation with Trump. And my objective here was to ask Trump different types of questions than he normally gets. Not only because I wanted to bring out a private side of Trump that is very rarely seen in public, but also because I wanted people to show how Trump's mind works, the tumblers of his mind as he processes a question he hasn't heard before, the surprise on his face, the way he thinks about it. All of this, I think, is very, very interesting because Trump is a guy, he's a man's man. And so if you ask him things like, well, how did the assassination attempt make you feel? He doesn't want to answer that kind of question. He'll pull back from it. So you have to think of ways that you can bring Trump out in a pathway that he's quite comfortable with. So I'm very happy to say he allowed me to kind of control the trajectory of the conversation and do that. And so as a result, I think the conversation with Trump in this film is quite unique.
Yeah, and so more than once he said, "Good question." So that's excellent. And when I was contemplating, once your folks said, "Yeah, we can get Dinesh on your show," I'm thinking, what do I want to ask him? I know I want to ask him something that he's never been asked before. You probably get so many, and especially doing your film right now and promoting your film. What's the one question everybody asks you over and over again?
Well, I must say, after 2000 Mules, it's a question you can predict, which is, can we feel safe about this election? Or are they going to steal it one more time? And it's a question, of course, I can't definitively answer. I do think that things are better now than they were in 2020. A lot of, barn doors that were left open are now locked. I don't think that they can cheat exactly the same way. I mean, hey, if they send mules in the middle of the night where, with backpacks full of ballots, they're going to be patriots looking for that. They'll get busted on the scene. So they've got to think of new schemes, new stratagems. And our section called the Ballot Makers, which opens up, what it really shows you is our system remains vulnerable. That's the bad news. So I think we need a second Trump term. Ideally, we need the House and the Senate to really get this election system cleaned up once and for all.
One thing you brought out too in vindicating Trump in this particular section of the film that you're talking about is that people can literally, legally print out ballots and fill them out.
It's downright crazy. We hired a couple of investigators, and when they came and told me that, I, at first I was incredulous. I'm like, there's no way. We have to get ballots from the state. The state has the ballots. You can't get them any other way. But then they were like, well, Dinesh, really, where do you think the state of Texas gets its ballot stock from? Who makes the paper? Don't you think they order it from certain companies that make the ballot stock to a particular specification? And guess what? Those exact same companies sell it on the open market. You can order it and have it delivered to your door. And I was like, listen, guys, don't come on the film and say this. No one will believe you. So go ahead and order the ballot paper. Go ahead and download the information. Show me that you can create not one, not two, but 10,000 ballots. Show me that those ballots will fit in the tabulating machine. So all of this is in the film. It's very eye-opening. I told Laura Trump about that. She's the vice chair of the Republican National Committee, and of course also President Trump. And so these people know about it. But and some people have said to me watching the film, they're like, hey, Dinesh, hopefully you're not showing them some new ways to cheat. And I'm like, no, the reason for doing this is to expose things in advance so that they can't pull off the heist this way.
It was infuriating. During the film, I literally shouted out, no! It just made me so angry. I was so angry and frustrated because, sir, I don't see any people in my own party doing anything to try and stop it. They don't even talk about it. All they have to do is be called election denier. That's some kind of great insult to you. Here's a response back, my fellow Republican politicians and conservatives. Yeah, there was an election. What I deny is that it was honest. How come our own party isn't fighting back like this? Or are they? And I just don't know about it because the media doesn't report it.
In general, the Republicans are the party of invertebrates. It's so sad. I invited some prominent people in Congress to come and watch 2,000 Mules when the movie first came out. And these people are not, rhinos. They're conservative Republicans. But I noticed there was kind of a weird reluctance for them to come and see the movie. And then I figured it out. It's not because they feared that the information was false. It's the opposite. They feared that it was true. And they feared that if they came and saw the movie, they'd feel obliged to do something about it. But since they didn't want to do anything about it, they were afraid of being attacked by the media, called election deniers. So the election topic and January 6th are two topics that the left has successfully made radioactive. And so a group of people who don't have a very strong spine tend to stay away, Republicans, from those topics, even though my point to them was, hey, listen, I didn't come out at the beginning. I wasn't on board initially with some of the claims because they were mere anomalies. Now, an anomaly is something that needs to be looked into, but an anomaly could have an explanation. But I said, in 2,000 Mules, we're not talking about anomalies. We're going to show you. We're going to document the fraud. There happens to be a way to take you right back to the 2020 election, to those days and weeks. And by way of cell phones, cell phone geo-tracking, and by way of surveillance video, I can show you the people breaking into Fort Knox. So you can dispute the evidence in front of your eyes, but this is surveillance video taken by the states themselves. So the proof was there. Of course, there needed to be follow-up in terms of investigation. Someone needed to go talk to the mules and so on. But it was very disheartening to see even Republicans who really did not want to see or hear it.
Right. It's frustrating as hell. And I don't know how we ever win again. I don't know. I pray that it's, as President Trump himself keeps saying, too big to rig. I pray that we're able to pull that off. But even if, and Lord willing, he does win, and on November 5th, it is overwhelming, too big to deny. What are they going to do to keep him from ever taking office?
Whatever they can is the answer. They will go berserk. And let's make, someone was asking me the other day, they're like, well, won't the Republicans go berserk? And I was like, no, if the Republicans lose a free and fair election, Republicans will be like, all right, we lost. We need to dust off, and we need to regroup, and we need to do better next time. That's not the Democrats. The Democrats will scream and obstruct, even if the election is completely fair. In fact, I'm not aware of any Democrats who think Trump is going to steal the election. So just as in 1860, which of course was the fateful election of Abraham Lincoln, the Southern Democrats never said, we think Lincoln stole the election, Lincoln must have cheated. They admitted that Lincoln won the electoral vote. But nevertheless, they're like, we refuse to accept the outcome. So we are not all that far away from 1860 territory, and that kind of a recurrence in some new form happening once again.
With the exception of John Kennedy, every assassination of a president or a one-time sitting president has come from some nutbag on the left. Every single one. It is their side that pulls that crap, and we don't do that. We try and that's part of my frustration, because I want some fighters. I want some fighters holding office, but until we start electing those kind of people, until our central committees actually start stepping up and, well, this one's safe and this one's got a lot more money. Yeah, but this one right here is a fighter. So let's get behind them, and they don't. And until that happens, and until we wake up, I don't know. I wish I saw a light at the end of the tunnel, but I pray for you. I pray for your safety, and your wife and the people who work with you. I want you to please flourish. Please keep doing what you're doing. They even sent you to prison on a trumped up charge, and you didn't quit. And that's what they do. They try and shut you down and shut you up and make you so fearful that you'll never do that again. And not only will you never do it again, but anybody else who might be thinking that way will never try that, because look what we did to him. But they did that to you, Dinesh. And you came back, and you didn't quit. And you came back stronger than ever. And that makes you one of my heroes. I think you're so extraordinary. And here's the question that I would like, and I pray that everyone sees Vindicating Trump. I pray you do that. Go to vindicatingtrump.com. Please watch it. Watch it with a group of people. Get together, get educated. He gives you some information that nobody else has ever brought out. And we gotta support men like Dinesh. We gotta support men like Mike Lindell. We gotta support these kind of patriots and get behind them. And we have to start holding our own elected representatives accountable. Until I had, you might not be familiar with him, but Tom McClintock, out here, congressman in California, after 2,000 Mules, I had him on my radio show, and I asked him about election fraud. And I go, how are we ever going to win it, especially here in California? Are we ever going to have another Republican governor again? How are we going to do it? His response stunned me. Well, there's not actually enough proof to show that it really adversely affected the election. What planet do you live on, is what I asked him. These are the kind of representatives we have. They're great people. They're good. I want to believe that they have our best interest at heart. But we got to rise up. We got to toughen up. We got to man up, Dinesh.
Yeah, with a lot of these guys, the way I try to bring them along is I do it step by step. So I'll say, all right, let's put aside 2,000 Mules. Let me ask you a simple question. We've been hearing nonstop since 2020 that this was the most secure election in U.S. history. Now, for someone to make a statement like that, presumably they would have some sort of documentation, some sort of research that shows that the volume of fraud in 2020 was less than in 2016, 2012, 2008, 2004, and so on. Where is that demonstration? Show it to me. And they're like, well, it doesn't really exist. Okay. So now you admit that not only has no one ever shown that, no one's even attempted it. So let's take back the claim that this was the most secure election. There is no substantiation. This is what the media used to use the rhetoric that we hear so often today. This is an utterly baseless claim. Do you accept that? All right. Do you also agree that the rules of the 2020 election were dramatically changed on account of COVID? In fact, people like Fauci told us, oh, we can't have a normal election because people have got to be at least 6 feet apart. Now Fauci admits there was no basis for that. There was no science behind that either. But I think that was very malevolently put forward to provide a pretext, an excuse to change the rules of the 2020 election. So do you agree that leaving aside fraud, that the playing field was unleveled by all kinds of interventions that are utterly unconventional in American politics. And so step by step, I try to bring these, unwilling Republicans along and get them to realize that I'm not saying anything extreme. I'm pointing to well-documented things, and reasonable people can disagree with them. Like, you can say, all right, I see all this stuff in 2000 Mules, and I agree there was a lot of fraud, but you know what? I'm not positive it was enough to give Trump all the states that he would need to win. I'd be like, fine, but I would be like, guess what? Do you happen to know that under election law, you don't have to prove that your guy won? You merely have to prove that the election outcome is uncertain. And if the election outcome is uncertain, you have to redo it. You have to take it back.
According to our own U.S. Constitution.
That's the law. So I'm hoping that we have come some ways over the past 4 years, that we are not in the same frozen, debilitated state we were in 2020, and we'll get a better outcome in 2024.
I pray you're right, brother. Here's the question that I want to ask you that I hope no one's ever asked you. What family member growing up in India, as you did, what family member had such a profound effect on you that they have made you who you are today?
Well, I was raised certainly by two very good parents, but I was also raised by grandparents. I had sort of the extended family around me. And I think the most important thing was that I had a very secure childhood. And I think that is what gives you the confidence later as an adult to be able to stand strong when the adverse winds blow. So when I was up against the Obama administration, I looked around and I said to myself, look, what is their goal? Well, their goal is not, lock me up, but why do they want to lock me up? What's their real goal? Well, their real goal is to destroy my career and shut down my voice. So if my career is bigger afterward, and if my voice is enlarged, reaches more people, then I win. If, on the other hand, my career is like kaput and I can't make another movie and no one invites me anymore to write a book or to speak, then they win. So I'm like, I've got to make sure that, I don't care about sleeping in a dorm with some criminals for 8 months. I'll survive that. But I want to make sure that their ultimate objective is defeated. And I think I was successful in doing that.
I know that. I know that you were, and you are. And so much of that is the Lord. I definitely strongly believe that. And I appreciate you more than you know. And the fact that you came on my little old show just means the world to me. Thank you, Dinesh D'Souza.
I'm very happy to do it. Thank you.
Go to vindicatingtrump.com. Watch that movie. Vitally important, because you're going to see. And what I appreciate about you, you not only expose how they cheat, but you also go, here's how we can counter it. Here's how we can fight against it. Worth it. Vindicatingtrump.com. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
What a nice time. What a great privilege to get to talk with him. And mypillow.com/Lee is the best way you can help support the show and keep it on the air and get up to 75% off MyPillow products made in the United States of America. Lee, my middle name, is the promo code that can save you money in the end there. So go to mypillow.com/Lee. And you want to help the show stay on the air, you want to just support this broadcast, you can do that at venmo.com/do not talk. Venmo.com/do not talk. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America, bless God.